Jesus and the disciples were walking through grain fields on the Sabbath, and the disciples were hungry. They were eating the grain, but the Pharisees rebuked them for what they were doing. But Jesus showed that the Sabbath was made for man, and that they were hungry, and even David ate of the shewbread from the temple. So let's read it from Matthew chapter 12, beginning at verse 1. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples were hungry. And they began to pluck the heads of grain and to eat it. Here we are in a beautiful grain field. How beautiful it is at this time, just before Passover, and the barley is getting ripe. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." But he said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him, how he entered into the house of God and ate the shewbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests? Or have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? Yet I say to you that in this place there is one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." And now here is Ari Bar David to tell us more about this incident in the life of Jesus, and also explain about the barley fields, the Hebrew counter, and Passover.
I don't know if God created something more beautiful than these fields of barley. Not just of barley, but of ready barley, ready to be harvested. You know, the Lord used the same thing when he said, "Look on the fields, they are ready to be harvested." And he talked about human being, about people that will believe in the Lord, and they will look like the grain ready to be harvested. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the barley. We've just heard that the Lord was walking in a field like this on Shabbat. And he and the disciples were picking the seeds or the kernels of the barley and were just putting in their mouth and were eating. Like I'm doing now. Excellent, excellent taste. Now, this is ready to be harvested during the feast of Passover. And we are just now 1 week before the feast. So next week we celebrate the feast of Passover, and immediately after this they are going to cut the first and to bring them to the temple. Why to the temple? Because God commanded the first fruit of the barley should be lifted up to me. And then in biblical time, for almost more than 2 months, it took them to cut all these fields full of barley. Now, let us see how God did it, that we always will have the barley ready after Passover. The Jewish calendar, the biblical calendar, goes through the moon and through the sun, which means this will be ready according to the situation of the sun, right? It will be full of seed. That's why all our feasts are agriculture feasts that going concerning or in balance with the sun. But look, the system was like this, that the high priest, when the fields were almost ready like this, the high priest went down in Jerusalem, from the temple to a valley that they sowed it, they were putting seed of barley. He went down, he took the seeds, the kernel, he was putting it in his teeth. Everyone watched his face. Now, if it was sweet and green, he told the people, next full moon, we celebrate the Passover. Which means take horses and go. Spread this all over to Babylon and to Alexandria. That when the moon will be full, next time, then we celebrate the Passover. Now, you know, the Jewish calendar doesn't have 12 months, but 13 months. Every third year, we have the 12th month repeated 2 times. The 12th month is the last month before the Feast of Passover, because the Feast of Passover started on the first month, and this is Nisan. The last month, the 12th, is Adar. So we celebrate Adar A, Adar B, and then regular year, and then Adar A, Adar B, and so on. How we got this Adar B? The high priest went down in this time, and on the 12th month, and he took this and tasted, and it was not sweet. So what he said, we have to have another month, and that's why they call it Adar B. And then after they made this month again, he went down to the field, he tasted this, it was green, it was sweet, and he said, next full moon we celebrate the Passover. So again, God did it such a way that even Jewish people that were living far away from the land of Israel, in the north, Finland, Lapland, whenever they are sitting around the table, they had the bread, they had the wine, they had the candle. When they looked about the bread, they remembered the bread in Israel. When they looked around the wine, they remembered the wine, the vines of the land of Israel. When they looked at the candle, they remembered the oil of the olive trees in the land of Israel. So even in the snow of Lapland, that can be during April, the heart was in the land of Israel. And this way God connected the land of Israel, the people of Israel, and of course the law that he gave us in this, together in one thing. So look again how beautifully everything is connected one to the other. No doubt, God wanted his people to dwell here in this land. When they disobeyed, he kicked them away. But when his mercies came to him, he brought them back to this land. We are now back to our land. And my prayer that we will celebrate many, many seasons like this Passover. And more than anything, that the day will come soon when the Lord will come here, build his temple here, and we will celebrate it together with our Lord Yeshua.